Hey everyone, welcome back to MLworks. In this video, we'll be discussing about CRUD operations with FastAPI. So CRUD refers to creation of an object or reading an object or updating an object or deleting an object. So we'll be using a simple dictionary which will act as our in-memory database and will perform all these operations on top of the dictionary. So there are a few simple steps to do it, and before doing that, let's define the task, which is to create a simple API for managing a list of items. It could be products or any other service or anything. So the steps would be to create a data model. First, we'll be using Pydantic for that, which will validate the incoming or outgoing data either in the form of request or response. And then we'll talk about creating a in-memory database with the help of a dictionary, and then we'll initialize the app, and then we'll start creating our API. So to create an item, we'll normally create a post request. To fetch an item from a list, we'll be using get request, and to update an item in a list, we'll be using put request, and to remove an item from a list, we'll be using or we'll be creating a delete request. So with that understanding, let's jump on to creating a simple API first, and then we'll move on to creating post, get, put and delete request. So first thing first, let's spin up our server first, which is uvcon main.:app and reload. So what this will do is uvcon is our server, which is an ASGI server, which is capable of handling asynchronous programming, and main is our file, and app is what our FastAPI initialization is. And reload command what it will do is whatever the changes we do with respect to this file, it will automatically reload the server or restart the server and get the updated code. Okay. Now this is the folder. Now I'll go to the VS Code, and I'm not sure if I have, we have main.py, which is empty. So I'll just spin up the server, and it will say that there is no app yet found in the main module. So we'll create app as we move forward with the exercise. So first step is to import all the packages that are required, which is FastAPI. And then from Pydantic we'll import base model, and for type-ins we'll be using from typing import optional and list. Just to give you a note, I also have created a main reference. If something goes wrong with our script while we are doing it, we can go ahead and reference this document. First step is to create a data model. So we'll be using Pydantic for that. So class is item, and we'll inherit the properties of Pydantic base model, and name of the item is, it will be string, and then price is, it will be float, and then we'll have a description of the product, which I'm keeping optional, and it is also string. If nothing is present, it is none, and then tax is equal : optional, optional but float value, and then none. So we have created our Pydantic model for item, which contains 4 parameters: name, price, description and tax, and these 2 parameters are optional. So whenever the request that comes in, it has to validate through these set of 4 parameters, and it should contain specific data type. If the data type is mismatching, then it will throw an error. So we created our data model, which is item, and then we have to create a in-memory database and app initialization. So app is equal to FastAPI, and then data model is items_db. We want to create a dictionary, so that will take in integer as the ID for each item, and then we want to each value of the dictionary is an item. So this is the whole thing. This is the value of the dictionary. So that is the type we have given, and int is the ID. So we have initialized this items DB, which is our in-memory database for this simple exercise that we are doing. And next underscore ID is equal to 1. So this is the ID that will get assigned to this integer, which is the key, and item is that which we are putting as part of our request, post request. So let me just add some comments here. This is the data model. This is app initialization. This is in-memory DB. Now we'll start off with our post request. So the idea is to first we have to create an app decorator, and since it is a post request dot post and the path is items, now we want to define our this won't come here, it should come here, and create item, and it will take, so it will take the items. So it will be colon item, and I will be, first thing is this will take in the item, which is this object validation will take place, and then I want to make sure this ID is made global, because next time we want to update this next ID to +1, and it is also accessible by other classes also, or other functions as well. So we want to make it global. Now what I'll do is I'll be creating my first item inside my in-memory database. So items DB, and next item, next underscore ID is equal to item. Now we also want to share this with the as a response outside. So ID is equal to 1 second. So we want to increment this next ID, because when you're again making a post request, the ID is updated to 2 instead of 1. So we'll increment this, and we'll use new underscore item ID is equal to next ID. Now instead of using this next ID, I'll use this next ID, this item ID, and I'll be using model dump here. So what this will do is when we are getting in the input request, it will be in Pydantic model, but we want to convert that into a dictionary, because finally the response is a dictionary. So we use model dump for turning this into from Pydantic model to dictionary. So we are done with our post request. Now let's talk about get request. Again, we'll create a app decorator get request, and this time it again items, and this time what we have to do is we also want to, since it is just get all items, what I'll do is we want to fetch the output of that specific request will be a list of items. So what we'll do is definition read items, and I won't take anything here. I'll just pass the response should be list of items, and that's it. And here what we'll do is we'll be turning our items DB's value, right? Whatever it is present here, we'll turn it into list of items. So this will read, when you hit the specific endpoint, it will read all the objects that are present inside your in-memory database. This is for reading all the items, but there is possibility that you want to read specific item. So what we can do is we can create another method or another route, which is called as item slash here item underscore ID. So this is a path parameter which can take dynamic value. So this is how we have to define the path parameter, and then read item. So unlike here, which reads all the items, here we'll read based on the item ID, we'll read specific item. So item ID colon integer, and then what we do is we check first whether this item underscore ID is not in item DB. If it is not, then we want to raise an exception, which is HTTP. So if I go back here under FastAPI, I have something called as HTTP exception. So I'll take this exception, and here I'll pass the status code as 404 and detail as an F string, where I'll be saying item with ID, item ID not found. So this is my response when the item ID is not present. Otherwise, I'll be just items DB, I'll just take out the item ID. Okay, this is for fetching one specific item from your in-memory database. Now we are done with post request, get request. Now we'll start off with the put request. Again, app decorator, then put request, and then we'll pass in our items slash. So when you want to update something, you want to specify some unique ID to it. So we'll be passing the item ID again here, which is the path parameter. And then what we do is we define our update item. So this will take in item ID, which is again an integer, and then item, which is again an item object, which is this one at the top we have, right? This is the item object. So this is expected. Now what we'll do is, since we are taking in item ID and it is part of your input request that is coming in, what we have to do is, again, we have to raise this specific condition if the item ID is not present. So I'll just copy paste this one, and that's it. And then if the item is present, what we'll do is items underscore this one item DB item ID, and this is the item updated item that we want to set. And return is I'll be sending, this is the item ID that got updated. So then the message is item object is updated, item object is updated, and I'll just dump that item here, that model dump. So this is the response that we want to send after we have updated a specific input item. Now what we'll do is we'll start off with our delete request, app.delete, and again this will also take in item ID, because we cannot delete the whole database, we want to delete one specific object. So item ID, and then we'll define delete item, which will take in item underscore ID, which is an integer. Now since we are taking again item ID, we'll just copy paste this one, and if the item is present which we want to delete, then what we do is items underscore DB, get that. Before we do that, delete keyword from Python, we'll take that, and this is the item ID we want to delete. And return, what we do is we just say that this is the item ID, and the message that we want to send is so let me put it as a string, and here what I'll say is item with ID is removed. We have created all the 4 CRUD operations: creating an item with the help of post request, getting an item with the help of get request, and updating an item with the help of put request, and then deleting an item with the help of delete request. Next, what we'll do is, since we have saved this file, I guess this has restarted, the server got restarted. Now I'll go to the incognito and localhost 8000, and I'll go to the docs, which is the interactive Swagger UI for hitting those API endpoints that we created. So let me go here. So we have all the 4 up and running. Here we have all the 4 requests. First is we have to pass some item to our specific database. First is books, price is 10, string is nice book, description is 1.0, tags of 1.0. Okay, so what will happen is it will create an object inside the DB. So execute it, and the server response is 200, and it has created an object response. Now what we'll do is, let me minimize this and go to the specific items where I want to read out all the items. So if I just execute, it is not taking any parameter because we want to read all the items from our DB. So I just do execute, and it has taken out that specific list of items. Okay, if I just go back here, so if you see here, this is the list of items. So we are seeing that. Now what I'll do is, I'll just go back to post request, and I'll say here, I'll modify this one, and I'll just 50, and I will say computer, it's nothing, just random some stuff, right? 5. Okay, this is another object that we created inside our in memory DB. So it is created. It's a successful request that we have sent, and we created another object inside our in-memory database. Now if I go here again, if I run it, if you see here, right, in the when we ran it previously, it gave one item. If I execute it again, it will give the 2 items. Okay, now let me close this out, and I'll just open this again. If you can see, right, what was the ID that was given? So we are not aware. Okay, but since we know that the ID was 1 and 2 because we have incremented it. Okay, so let me go close this one and get it based out of item ID. So I'll click send item ID as 2. It has to pull out the second item that is present inside the in-memory DB. So I'll execute this. So it has fetched the second item, which is this one. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll update an item, which is second one. And instead of computer, we'll talk about it as laptop. And then it is $30. Tax is 3.0. Description is nothing. Okay, so this is our updated item at position 2 or key 2, and this is the updated item details. Let me execute this one, and it is the server response is 200, code 200, so it is successful. And this is the ID and the corresponding updated item object is updated. It is mentioned here. Now what I'll do is, since 2 is updated, now I'll go to get items. I'll search for 2. Now let's see, it should take laptop. Yeah, so it's working fine. Now what we'll do is we'll go to the final request, which is delete, and I want to delete 2. Now if I execute this one, item with ID 2 is removed. Okay, So this is done. Now let's go back to get item and let's see if the 2 ID is present or not. So item with ID 2 is not found. Okay, because we have deleted it in the previous request that we sent to the delete. So we have completed all the 4 operations, CRUD operations, and we have implemented and tested them out. So you can go ahead and implement the same. Thank you for watching.